Hey, I'm Sharan and welcome to the launch of my book, The Python Wizardry. So before we get started, here are a few things you need to know. This is a recorded event, not a live one. I wanted to go live, but this will be better for both you and me. And this is how the order of the things going to be. Introduction, the story, the idea, launch, what's in the book, Q&A, conclusion, and gift. If you want, watch the entire video, it will really benefit you. If not, you can just skip to the timestamps as you can see here and enjoy whatever you want to see. So let's get started. Before we start, here's a short introduction of the book. Python Wizardry is a programming book on Python meant for computer science engineering of all years. It covers a diverse set of topics from web development to ML, bcrypt to design patterns in OOPS. It was created as a course as well as a reference book. So now we have the introduction. But how in the world do I know Python? Back when I was 11 years old, I was sitting in a classroom as our IT teacher introduced us to QBasic, an ancient programming language that has seen better days. I noticed a potential error. Without thinking twice, I pointed it out. Well, let's just say she did not appreciate my input. She called me to the front of the class and gave me a huge lecture that I was a dumb kid and she was a teacher with a bachelor's degree in her hand. At that point, at least, I did not argue any further and just wiped my tears and sat down and never spoke at her class. But that's just a part of the story. At the same day, I went home, opened my laptop, and wrote her code. And just as I suspected, it was not right. So I did the only possible thing that I could. I learned the entire QBasic language in 2 weeks. I know it's not a huge deal because it's not a large and complex language, but for me, as a 11 years old, I was accelerated. That gave me a lot of energy. I was already in love with tech a long time ago, I guess when I was 3, but this made that moment a turning point in my life. So, sorry, I don't remember your name, but really thank you. You kind of changed my life. I'm pretty sure if there was some other teacher, I would not have been shut and I would have spoken, but still, thank you. And after that moment, my attention turned towards probably the most important language that I have learned, that is Python. It's also my favorite. I did not go to school for a major part of my childhood for personal reasons, so I spent all the time I had learning and fine tuning my skills. And trust me when I say all my time, I mean it. My parents are tired of hearing the word Python. So after learning for about 6 months, I started what will be my next major project and turning point in my life. Project Jarvis, an artificial intelligent desktop assistant which has now won national and multiple state level awards. It was really fun, and honestly, it is still fun to work on Jarvis, and it was so successful that it made a huge impact in my life more than any other event did. But when I was 15, my attention turned towards my studies as my boards were coming up, and Python was just in the back of my head. I still did programming, but barely. I also had a huge and a major thing planned ahead: the launch of my first book, Waterinator, and the launch of my very own company, KS. So that's the story. You might wonder, I'm now 17, so did I miss a couple of years? Well, that brings us to the idea. During high school beginning, I juggled a lot of things: my school, projects, responsibilities, company, and boards, after which came 11th standard. But my bond with Python remained unbroken because I took a break from programming to focus on my studies, but I found myself continually drawn to it. I used to improve Jarvis or take on small projects. One evening, as I hunched over my laptop, I found a folder titled Notes. A simple name for a folder that is going to change the next 2 years of my life. That was the moment an idea came to my head. The idea that would soon become the Python Wizardry. Now, here's where things get interesting. The idea wasn't just about a book, it was about spreading the awesome stuff I had done, the excitement of coding, and the endless hours I spent on my laptop. And I just wanted others to feel that. When I was learning programming, I used a lot of resources, probably tens and if not hundreds, tens of books and websites, and it was kinda irritating. And after stage, I didn't really find great tutorials that will take my Python to next level. So I tried my best and just put a lot of effort in creating the book that will really help others. But that is not that easy as it might seem. An idea turned into a book. There was a lot of things in between. Because the difference between an idea and turning into reality is just hard. It took is just hard. It took countless late nights, missed assignments, stress days, and a lot of work just to create the structure of the first book. The structure gave an essence of what will be the final draft, what will it look like, and what will it include. That took me a lot of months, more than 4 or 5. Then a couple of months to make the structure into a readable first draft. But all I had was theory, no programs, no applications. I needed a lot of time, so I sacrificed my food, sleep, and all the time that I had to complete the book, and it was well spent because after 4 months, I completed writing and testing and debugging the code I wrote, and I added them to the book. And finally, the first draft was completed, so the book might be ready, right? No, not at all. The book was only ever read by me. That means it could have not been proofread. That is a large problem because every single programming book or any book really is proofread, and it's just not easy or good to publish a book without being a proofread. So I could have paid a guy 65,000 rupees, not a guy, sorry, professor, 65,000 rupees. But the problem was 65,000 rupees. It is a lot, and I had made a goal that I want to bear all the costs of the publishing. My dad did ask that if we could help, and my mom too, but it just felt unreal to pay for 65,000 rupees. So that means my book was halted. Then ChatGPT launched, and I took full advantage of it. Now I did not ask it to write programs, ideas, or anything. I just asked it to if my book made sense. All I did is copy my explanation, my codes, and gave it to ChatGPT and other artificial intelligence such as Bard, which was launched later, and just asked it if the code made sense. And I particularly make sure that its answer was as accurate as possible because I tried my best to keep it as perfect as possible, although it still did had some errors which could not have been fixed by me. And after that, I really felt that my book was done, but there was a huge task left which could not have possibly been completed alone. The thing was formatting. The thing about formatting is it's really tedious and tiring, but the most important. Fortunately, my dad helped. He spent countless hours formatting my book, giving me insights, and honestly, if he couldn't had helped, I would not have completed this book for next 5 or 6 months, or who knows, maybe an year or two. Thank you so much, Dad. I mean, he has a quite important job. Still, he was able to take time on my book. So that covers the book. The next part was not the most important, but it is still important. The cover itself. You should not judge a book by its cover, but in this case, you kinda need to. I can't draw a line, a straight line. How can I imagine to draw an entire professional cover on my laptop? So I asked my sister to help, and she worked tirelessly on the cover. So thank you so much. Her videos link is in the description. Go check her out. Now, I will mention one more person who did not write my book, did not format it, did not proofread it, but she was there always to support me. Thank you so much, mom, and thank you, dad and sister. It's because of you I was able to complete this book. So I dedicate this book entirely to you. I mean, I literally wrote it in the book so that anyone who reads that knows that they they played an important role in my book and in my life. So after months, if not years of work, my book is finally completed and I'm really excited to launch it today. So that brings us to the launch. So for the first time in my channel's history, let's welcome my parents to the screen. Hi mom and dad.
Hi, Sharan.
Hey. So what I'm holding in my hand is the first ever copy of my book, The Python Wizardry. Let's unravel it. Please do the honors.
Congratulations, Sharan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congrats, Sharan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You did one pixel. Do more like this.
Thank you so much, Dad. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. Okay guys, so now let's move on to the next section. What's in this book? So now let's talk about the most important part of the launch, the book. Let's start on a scale of the entire book itself. The book is designed in a way that makes sure that every single portion of the book feels like a continuation to the last part. Each chapter is interconnected, allowing beginners to start from the chapter 1 and gradually progress to chapter 19. For those who are more experienced, chapter 13 and beyond offers a direct path to specific programming concepts, because that is where we go really specific and really advanced into individual portions of programming such as web development, improved object oriented programming, machine learning, and a lot more. But it doesn't mean that you should directly skip all the chapters, because a lot of beginning chapters also include a lot of advanced portions, honestly. And if you still feel that you need to skip them, just complete the reinforcement zone. I will let you know what is reinforcement zone in a second. So, in this structure, if you can follow the entire book according to the chapters, you should be able to write quite a few programs on your own by the end of the book, as the book includes most of all the things that you need to get started with writing real practical applications. The only thing is that it doesn't include GUI, graphical user interface. The reason I decided not to include it is it's not that hard and you can learn it on your own. This book is not 100% absolute beginner book, but intended for people who want to take their Python knowledge to the next level. As this book is intended for the people who are wanting to take their skills to the next level, I have created a chapter called Challenges. At the end of the book, there are 30 challenges divided by skill level, so you can practice all the problems that you want. Remember, solution to programming can be numerous. The answers that I have given in the book are the simplest and most minimalistic, so that you can ensure that you can write and expand them as much as you want. Note that I have provided solution to the 30 questions, because those questions are till beginner to the advanced or even more than that level. But there are three other questions labeled as professional or level X. Now, these questions are extremely hard and are really intuitive, and the most rewarding programs that you will create in this book. Now, the solutions to this is not given in the book. You cannot find it even in ChatGPT or Bard, because you will be building your very own first software from the start to the end, from all the knowledge that you have learned in the book. And I have ensured that you can create all those softwares on your own just from the information in the book. Now, this is the reason that I did not give the solution, because this is the place where you put your theoretical knowledge into practicality. This is where you will create your first program, go through all the phases that I have gone through, and then at the last be rewarded by the satisfaction itself. And maybe, just maybe, it might be enough for an huge thing ahead. So now let's move on to the minute scale of individual chapters. The first 13 chapters are intended as a general section of programming. This includes your datasets, strings, dictionaries, object-oriented programming system. But do not be fooled when I say general or basic. I tried my best to go into as much depth as possible. I say general because I tried. Now, the reason that I say general section is because these things have a lot of beginner content, but they go in a lot more depth, such as design patterns and a lot more things. Just for example, in strings, you will learn list comprehensions, how you can encode and decode data, develop them, and how to use them, and also what are some of the common errors in them. Chapter 14 is where we start going into depth about certain parts of programming. Chapter 14 introduces us to MySQL, a really important structured database. Then it goes to teaching the basic concepts of database, basic instructions, after which it goes to introducing us to how to connect MySQL to Python. Then we move on to the advanced parts of database, such as adding multiple data tables together, etc, etc, etc. Then we will also learn one more database, that is unstructured database, MongoDB. So that's about chapter 14. Chapter 15 is about web development. Web development is really an important aspect about programming, not in terms of creating websites, but in terms of interacting with different applications. As in this chapter, you will learn how you can interact with other application using a thing called application programming interface, short long for API. This is a really important concept that you will learn in programming, because in this concept you will learn how to connect different or even your programming software to different applications. Chapter 16 starts with probably most interesting and complex and fun parts of programming, that is data science and machine learning. I'm pretty sure you must have heard about this little small thing called ChatGPT, right? Now, we are not going to create a ChatGPT ourselves because that will take years, if not decades, to individually create it. Now, what we will create is going to be different. Now, what we will develop is actually a movie recommendation system that explains collaborative filtering and other processes that gives you the movie that you want to watch. Just think about Netflix or Prime. Chapter 17 is probably a bit boring because it is called multi-threading. I will not go in depth, but basically what multi-threading does is it helps you to run multiple programs in the same program simultaneously to each other. This is a really crucial step and can cause a lot of errors if not done correctly. Now let's move on to the second final chapter in this book, automation. Automation is the art of removing repetitive tasks and probably the boring tasks in your life. And we will do this by a lot of methods. Let it be automatically removing the task of sending repetitive emails or just searching Google searches when you're researching. Honestly, this chapter can be really productive and realistic in your life if you can learn this well. Now, the last chapter, as I told, is the challenges. Now, one more thing that I would love to mention is that almost all the chapters include a special section called reinforcement zone. This is specifically divided for individual chapter assessment, and it is quite a complex program that is not easy, especially for the web development one where you create an actual website. Do not take this lightly, and that's why I said try your best to complete the reinforcement zone because this is the place where we go from theory to practical. So that is it for the book itself. I want to cover a lot of things, but it won't be possible in such a short time. Now let's move on to the next session, Q&A. You might be wondering that this is a recorded session. How in the world I'm going to do Q&A? Well, first thing, every single question asked in the comment section below will be answered. Secondly, I asked a couple of people a few basic Q question answers and I'm going to answer them. Well, I asked some questions and I'm going to answer the answers. It would be weird if I asked them question and answers. Let's check more. So the first question is, how did you publish this as a 17-year-old? This is quite an important and personal question to me because I have faced a lot of skepticism in my life as a 17-year-old or even 16, 15, 14, 13, 12-year-old who teaches programming or does programming on such a scale. But to be honest, my family believed in me, my mom, dad, sister, they believed in me, and one really close friend. And that was the force that drove me towards publishing this book. Otherwise, I was kind of scared to publish that I will get a lot of criticism. Well, when you're trying to do something good, you're going to be faced with criticism. Second question, who is this book for? Great question. This book is tailored for individuals with some programming experience. While explaining the concepts from basic, it's most beneficial if you have the foundation in programming. Beginners can, of course, and most certainly use it. I would recommend them. Why in the world would I say don't take my book? But if you're really completely new to programming, I would recommend checking out my other videos or any introductory programming resources to get the most of this book. What will be the reinforcement zone be like? So, to elaborate on this, I would like to say that it's just a large project that covers most, if not all, of the concepts taught in the chapter. For example, let's take the Flask project because it's a really huge one. Now, in that, I have given a lot of features in it that includes your authentication, security, and a lot more. And I have in the solution, I have given individual static web pages and how you can connect them, and the explanation of how the entire code works. That should really help you to understand how a real life program will work. How was I able to complete this book so soon? Well, it might seem like a short time frame, but writing the book isn't an overnight task. It took me around 11 months, not including the time spent for organizing, structuring, refining, and the 4 years of my life I wrote my notes about Python. So the reason I was able to complete it a little bit sooner than actually a lot sooner is due to ChatGPT. If it wasn't there, I would not have been able to complete it this soon because I did take some inspiration from ChatGPT. I would not want to lie. I did ask it to refactor some of my code. So that's how I completed this book soon. Huh, this is an interesting one. Let's chat about why automation is a big deal for me because I have repeatedly said that automation is an important topic for me, not only in this video but in a lot of aspects of my life. So let's go to an example. I have a YouTube channel, please subscribe. So for every single video that I create, I have a structure that includes updating my Excel sheet with the name, date, recording file location, channel type, and the video type, graphic type, etc. Then I create different folders to store different types of files, including images, graphics, A-roll, B-roll, and A-roll and B-roll from different cameras. After which I need to go through every single one of those videos, not to just watch them, but to rename them. This takes me around 45 minutes to 1.5 hours for long and really long videos. Now, I created a simple Python program that saves me a lot of time. Guess the time it takes for it to do the same task? 3, if not 4 minutes maximum. So, eventually, I'll save about an hour for every single video. And that's just one part of the automation. Just imagine if you automate a lot of stuff in your life, you'll be saving hours. That was the last question of our question and answer section. Now, if you still do have any questions, please do not hesitate and go down to the comment section, or there's an email ID in the description. Just email me or ask your question. I will try my best to answer your question. That wraps our Q&A session, and now towards the last part of the launch, conclusion, and the gift. I don't know why I said it like that. Before wrapping up, I would like to promote my book a little bit. So, firstly, for more information, you can go to the website that's linked below, as well as you can see on the screen. My book is available internationally, so you can refer this book to all of your friends wherever they are in the world. It's available on Amazon, Flipkart, Notion Press's official website, and my own website too. Now, one thing that I would like to say before wrapping this event is thank you to my family, my friends, and to all of you who are watching me and supporting me as a 17-year-old. And the last part of the event, the gift. So, for every single person who signed up for my newsletter, which I tried my best to heavily advertise before the launch, you're going to receive 5 chapters of my book entirely for free and a 20% off on your purchase of my book, let it be ebook or the physical copy. And for all of you who didn't sign up for my newsletter, I'm sorry, but I'm still giving you a 10% discount, and just sign up for the newsletter so that you won't miss on any other offer. Once again, thank you so much to every single person who attended this launch, and to those people who watched the entire video. You guys are awesome. I would like to end this launch with my favorite quote: stay foolish, stay hungry.